Hi there, happy Sunday. I have a face mask on, that's why my skin looks funny. I am getting Sagittarius season cards for the collective energy. So let's see what we have here. We have the Two of Swords, the Five of Swords, the Tower, and the Queen of Cups, okay? So this is the result of whatever's been going on that has been lurking just outside of our conscious awareness. There have been things coming up for integration that we haven't had the open arms to hold and welcome into our conscious awareness. And the Tower has towered and brought those up to the fore to be acknowledged. So these two cards, the Five of Swords, a little bit of like a, I don't know how it happened, but it did. I don't know where I stand now. I don't know where to go. The antidote, we're going to be fully coming into more of a feminine understanding of flow during this season to allow things to happen, to allow sort of this clutter and this rubble from the Tower to go. All right, I thought I was going to do a short, but I'm being guided to like continue with this reading just for a minute. Just continue with it for a minute. So what's the biggest advice is the world. Biggest advice is the world. So truly understand, I'm seeing somebody who has those little, like the little tabs that you put on documents where it's like sign here and it's like bright yellow. These little stickers. When you encounter certain things right now, it's like we have two different things in a color-coded system, bright pink, bright yellow. And you're gonna be flagging these things. If you don't do it consciously, it might not happen because they'll all be mixed together, but it's like old world, new world, old world, new world. I don't want to flag something that is specifically surrounded by all of these old world problems, things that I'd like to move away from. I don't want to flag that new timeline because then those surrounding elements are also going to get drug into the new timeline. So there's something here about embracing the clarity of the boundaries that you can create between things that you're letting go of and things that you're moving into. This is the advice. What's the biggest obstacle right now with this integration? Yeah, okay, there's a lot of different, this is so funny, because all of these cards are different suits, right? We have the Pentacles here, Knight of Pentacles, Knight of Cups, King of Swords. So there's something about the way that we can see into this situation mentally, swordsy, and we can identify things much quicker and at this level that feels like we're doing an accurate assessment with the King. But there's the grounded necessity of, I'm seeing snake, like belly to the ground, because you want every part of this new transition to be grounded. You don't want it to be a different kind of animal who has longer legs, who can take larger steps, because then it won't be as grounded. There's something about the two knights that right, they're back to back in this, just holding the cards like this, back to back, almost like they're moving in different directions, but take that energetically as in two different energies accomplishing different things. So you're actually covering all your bases when you allow yourself to move in a slow, practical way that anchors things into the earthly plane, not just spiraling on these like theoreticals of, you know, I have all these ideas, I want to do these things. You're nurturing them into existence, even though it feels like you're being pulled in two different directions, with the sharpness of your mind as the guide. But there's like a need for temperance, really. Temperance, patience, trusting in divine timing. That's why the Queen of Cups came out in that initial first spread, is because we really need to soften to the understanding that you cannot control the way that things are happening right now. But if you're rooted in receptivity, sort of like what I shared about the other day, like getting hit by a car was potentially a lesson for the driver. It wasn't like me commanding negative events into my environment. It could have been something that I was involved in for other reasons that are unbeknownst to me. And I'm just going to accept that and flow with that and move on. What's the blind spot here for this energy in Sagittarius season? I got a lot of messages yesterday. Here's the blind spot. The Five of Wands, the potential conflicts that might come up. I can't tell you how incredibly sensitive I've been feeling and how guided. My skin is tight, so I'm sorry if it looks weird when I'm saying words. Guided I've been to take time alone. I just don't, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter if you're physically alone. There is just conflicting energies right now, even in the fifth dimensional energy, even in like the 4D and the dream space. we're all spaghettied up. And this is like because of social media, because of the connections that we've made in life. It feels very accessible, like different people's energy when people are thinking about you or connecting with you, or when you're thinking about somebody or connecting with them. That's all very palpable right now. And so for me in these energies, it's like, I just want to know with clarity and for certain that I'm in this grounded space and my cocoon of golden light is good, and then I will take that show on the road. But it's requiring a lot more maintenance and attention during the changeover from Scorpio to Sagittarius season, and just the very intense solar activity that we've been getting. And personally, with this whole, I think I'll probably link together the videos that I took when I was on the trail yesterday out in the woods talking about stuff. But we finished up this strange, not really finished up, but had another wash or wave of this clearing for very, very low vibrational masculine sexual energy that has a ton of convolution and has been directly harming safe, healed feminine energy for a very long time. So I was feeling that come up. This was like middle of last week before, and now we're sort of softening into the receptivity of the balanced in the wake of that, right? That will have dredged up different things for different people. In the wake of that, we have the opportunity to hold these two different scales in a more balanced state. Inner masculine, feminine energy together, yin yang. So I think I asked for the blind spot. It's the nature of the conflicting energy around us. I don't think we see, nor do we have to see. I'll split the deck to clarify this. The extent of the conflicting energies around us, it's important to recognize them within yourself, but know that when you go within to address these conflicts, however they're emerging and arising for you, you are doing it for the map that reflects outside of yourself too. Interesting. 5 of Pentacles is the clarifier for that. Yeah, so this is a time, 5-5, of profound change. Things are changing so much more quickly in the energy than they appear in the 3D. And so it takes a little bit more time for it to like shake out. And that's a good thing, because then you have more and more opportunities in that quantum moment to realign and push through the little pockets of doubt and fear that you're actually feeling for a reason, to clear them out and say, you know, don't even get in too deep with it. Don't get like, I'm seeing somebody, this is strange, I'm getting a ton of visions this morning, like a little pouch of flour that somebody hit with a bow and arrow, and so it's like poof, it explodes everywhere. So these little pockets of doubt and fear are like flour, and you don't even have to say like, what does it have to do with? Is it justified for me to be in fear? Because you know now during this, it's a new world. We're in Pluto and Aquarius. You have the compass within you. We are not gathering information from outside. We're going within to inform how we feel. And you can trust that once you clear out all the detritus that's keeping you from having that connection. I'm also getting a message about females. Women might be guided, getting like a throat chakra block as I talk about this. Women might be guided to change up their birth control or go off of birth control altogether. If you are on some type of hormonal birth control that's been affecting your clear channel via your female feminine intuition, it could stop feeling like it's an aligned thing for you, but obviously don't take my word for it. But anyway, it's like we are understanding at this point that we can, with our intuition, identify not why there's fear or doubt, but that it's there, sling a bow and arrow at it and see it pop. And then all of that will not have that boundary, keeping it from being integrated with the whole. And that's sort of what we're moving through. This is the blind spot. The advice was the world, and just understanding how much this transformation is still underway. But let's just get one more card for Sagittarius season. The 9 of Wands. Here we go. This makes sense to me. I've been doing a few personal readings in the past few days, and the sun has been coming out. Like, I can't tell you how unbelievable the personal readings that I've been doing really are, because you just can't make it up. There's amazing sequences of cards coming out, and I've been just struck by how beautiful the energy is. It feels like it's a completely different energy that we're moving into. But look at this. We've been carrying these things for a very long time, carrying these things that there's periods of karma clearing that are contractually written into. Perhaps your soul understood that you were going to be carrying certain things for certain individuals in this way, in this lifetime. And it was understood. We never know. Well, we might know if we go into the integration of it all, but we don't know what certain people have done for us in other lifetimes. And there's a certain level of acceptance and graduation, acceptance around the way that things have been, graduation out of how things have been, and this tandem release. Because look, 9, 10, this is wands. This is like motivation, and I'm also seeing it as how free are you in your life, in the circumstances of your life? How free are you to mobilize the creative potential that lives within you? These two cards indicate that there's a lack of freedom, but these two cards indicate that there's a rebirth of that freedom that leads to ultimate joy and fulfillment on an emotional level, on every level, because it's the sun. But 9, 10, and then we go back to 1. So there's just this massive clearing happening right now, and we're in the midst of it. And like, I do feel, if we think about sort of like loops and journeys in the tarot, and like 1 to 10, and then the court cards, and then the major arcana. There's something here too about this period that we're at right now, 5 being the direct midpoint between that 1 and that 10. It feels like these challenges that are happening right now are what is necessary for us to recognize the release of the burdens is occurring, and just feed that as far as believing that whatever is conflicting right now and making you feel like there's loss, like you're not, like you don't have what you need. It could just be the response to things exiting your life. We're very, very sensitive, even more. There's opportunity here to recognize the ways that we haven't yet integrated just how triggerable we are around certain things that have to do with loss and stability. So there's a recalibration where the universe is asking you, despite appearances right now around conflict and loss energy, to know that you're held and you're provided for, and you don't have to have the same reaction to similar situations going into this season, because this is the time that you put all of the burdens down to have this new beginning. Let's add one more card with the risk of ruining it completely. Let's cut the deck to add one more card to this trio. We did it. We ruined it completely. It's the 7 of Cups. It's that type of darkest before the dawn energy where it feels like you're going right into, it also feels like, I got that feeling of like, maybe you're in a line of cars, like bumper to bumper, and they're all accelerating. So you're like, okay, this is good, I can go. But then they all break again. You have to brake. It's like that I have to brake really quickly feeling. It's sort of this lurch. I felt it physically in my body, which is why I described it that way. But it's like we're hurtling through time and space and all of these like molting skins very quickly. The reason why that type of energy is picking up is because we're approaching 2025, and the energy of these years is overlapping a little bit. We're already feeling the energy of 2025, and that's the year of the snake. And we're going to be molting a lot as a collective. We're going to be molting out of these full skins. The skin is what faces the outside reality. So there's going to be these layers of these skins coming off to reveal a different external pattern on every level. I mean, think of the snake as different containers for how society operates. They're all going to be shedding skins in a variety of ways in the new year. So we are a part of that in our own little way as we make up the different groups of communities of, humanity that we inhabit. So I also pulled out the card underneath this overwhelm, this like, we feel like we're moving too fast or we're not actually in sync with the pace of our lives right now. That's another thing that I got with, I didn't share this because I've been surprisingly quick today. I actually did not feel this at all before I sat down. I was like, I'm going to do a nice, calm 60-second reading, but it sort of took over. Other thing I was feeling about these cards was I was seeing it like a map of a meteorologist where you have these different bands, and he's like, here we see the thing coming in from the north, and it's like that band of wind and then like whatever and whatever at different altitudes. Perhaps the wind is moving at a different speed, and the way that these bands can wrap around the stratosphere. I don't know what I'm saying, you know that. I'm not a meteorologist, but that's what these energies are like. And we have to understand that it does not feel good. We want to have that mental acuity and sharpness and pulse on the happening. We want our finger on the pulse of the happening. That's not really attainable right now because you're getting split open a little bit more into the alchemical mastery of being spread thin so that you are able to tap into different levels of beingness at the same time. And it's increasing your ability to have that finger on the pulse of the happening. But because you're stepping away from the usual way that you've been used to, feeling like you have it all figured out, which is more so from that logical, mental, I can see what's going on so I understand it type of approach. It's like we're learning how to inhabit these different modes of like emotional softness. There's a slowness to this energy too, because it's very earnest and it comes from this stripped down place of a healed emotional approach to something. A slow and grounded approach to something. And then being able to slice through all of the illusion to sit in a sense of power and understanding around what we're doing, what we're receiving, what we're doing. And then this was after the 7 of Cups. So there's a stability that we're seeking. And I'm just going to tie that back to the cards that came out for the feeling of Sagittarius season being this heavy thing. The heaviness has to do with some of the convolution that's been coming up, and Mercury just recently went into retrograde. So I know for a fact it's just uncanny the way that retrogrades function in my life. I was given the opportunity to say no to somebody again who keeps popping up in my life. Literally somebody who might be like, oh, all of that astrology stuff is stupid. And I'm like, why do you only bother me during retrograde then? You're the epitome. You fit right into all the things you don't believe in, which is so funny. As far as how you're behaving, like a puppet who responds to these things that you make fun of outside of your awareness, and successfully cleared the cycle and said, no, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Sorry, I'm doing too many things at once. Okay, so I'm connecting back into this energy because when we put down all these burdens, my light just flickered, my bulb, it just went toot toot. So that's confirmation that there's this transition into not needing to carry all of these burdens for others and just putting up with the, not that there haven't been chapters that we've been meant to kind of like slog through or endure. We now have different tools in the toolkit to be able to build exactly what it is that we would like to build in a new kingdom that we've worked very hard for and had a lot of patience to like understand how aligned it is. I'm just like rolling with this right now because there seems like there's one more message that wants to come out. So before I go peel this off of my face, it's also funny because I was talking about shedding skin. I don't know if I connected this yet, but I didn't mean for this to be like connected at all to what we're talking about here. Okay, what's the follow-up energy? If you're relating to the energy of being like, okay, I feel like I'm in this locus of this storm, and the storm is my life and my awareness is here, and every day I've got things, but there are these other latitudes of like, that's going on. And then in a different bandwidth of my reality, I look like Dog the Bounty Hunter or whoever that guy is. I'm sorry. Okay, wait. What's the advice for sinking back into when, for developing comfort in the uncomfortable? That's what I'm looking for. How to develop comfort and mastery within the uncomfortable. This is the advice for that. And then there was another, just one more question. Something about the feminine energy. First card is going to be developing comfort in the, there it is. That's the advice. And then the second card is sort of like an incoming energy with regard to a bigger receptivity with the feminine energy. Okay. The advice for the, yeah, openness is what I heard in my mind's eye, mind's ear, ears of my mind, mind of my ears. Openness. Why? Because these different bandwidths or laterals of energy moving through our lives that we're like, oh, I can't be in 3 places at once. How am I going to catch all of this and understand all of this and whatever? Openness and lightness, not needing to be like, there's an entire foundation of idea and belief over here, and I've bricked and mortared it. Like, no, don't do that. It could just be a structure. It could just be a draft. That's okay. You don't want to, you know, we're actually more so in the process of deconstructing heavy things. We want to right now, probably subconsciously, we're getting this urge to like, wait, but it's time to build a new thick, heavy structure. I need shelter. We can feel that there's this strange thing happening in the collective that's a lack of stability or a trend towards a lack of stability. And so our response energetically is to want to create that, except it's moving out on all levels on purpose. And so we're being asked to stay light. You will be able to transverse these energetic bands in a more adaptable series of patterns if you allow yourself to not like sink into like, I don't know what's going on, so I'm going to be like really gung-ho about my what I think is happening with regard to this or this. Like, we're looking for structures to hide in, because being out in the open where there's not a whole lot of stability feels uncomfortable and vulnerable. And we're not necessarily, look at this, she's naked, but that's okay. And so the advice for that energy is the Page of Wands, because it's that young, open, receptive. There's an adventure that's going to happen, and we're definitely sort of at the middle, the beginning, and the end all at once. So I'm not seeing, this is sort of this strange vignette that's getting plopped into the story of the overall year. Like, this energy and everything we're feeling during this season is sort of going to disapparate like it never even happened, which is weird to say and understand, but because it's very real as we live through it. But I'm saying it will, the way that we manage this energy is just that. It's not as set in stone as we think it is, not because what you're doing doesn't matter or have an impact, but because the closeouts and the rebirths that are taking place are more powerful than any of what you do right now. It's just managing this transition. The seeds have already been planted. Certain foundations have already crumbled. We're giving ourselves permission to repurpose elements of what has held us back through a positive lens, like resilience and being able to build what we want to build. And then the feminine advice card, or whatever I was inquiring on for that, it's the 6 of Swords and the 8 of Cups. Okay, so it has to do with the way that we're getting our emotional needs fulfilled, going somewhere else, understanding that you have to create in a new place in the new chapter. It's not going to happen. And we have the card that precedes this one in the deck come out. Oh, but it was in the first part of the reading and I put it back in the deck, so it was the 5 of Swords. That energy can often lead to going somewhere new because we don't like the 5 of Swords energy. It's sort of like this this lack of understanding of how we arrived in a certain place, and often requires change to get into a better place. And this card is also about going somewhere new, but it has to do, I often talk about, I mean, it's a journey in the night, right? And sometimes in the night we have the experience to see the moon illuminate things that look different than when they're illuminated under the sunshine. The moon, right? The sun is masculine energy, and the moon is the feminine energy. So it's really like, we understand that with everything we're doing right now, our emotions should be at the forefront of these decisions and these changes. maybe in a way that we haven't let them be in the past, because they're important, but also everybody honoring their emotional compasses right now and seeing where different emotions come into the picture to influence their overall sense of things. That's valuable. That's valuable. Honoring healthy, feminine, healed energy in society means that we actually just care a little bit more about how people feel, and we trust that how people feel is coming from something and it's accurate. And that starts with the self. And this has to do with breaking down like toxic expectations around, the way that a lot of females aspire and strive to work as hard as men in certain ways or do certain things. And like, it's like, no, I'm not designed for that, nor do I want to function that way, nor is my deepest level of power and insight accessed under those conditions. That's not it. I require rest, deep periods of recharging. And so just allow yourself to do things differently right now. And if you're guided to take your beautiful energy and bring it somewhere else, then do that. But also recognize that this is sort of like a dress rehearsal, the way that you handle yourself now as far as like recharging, resting, self-care. That's a dress rehearsal for oh my God, it waxed my little mustache. That hurt. It's a dress rehearsal for how you're going to be able to take care of yourself in the new energy when we're doing this collective shedding in the year of the snake. So pay attention to the things that you're incorporating, bringing in and letting go in that very like, I'm highlighting and coding these habits and these things that have been part of my life, as far as like, is it going to come with me? Is it going to stop being something that I populate in my world? Lasting message for how all of these energies are going to tie us into the Capricorn season next month when it turns after the cold moon on the 15th of December. Yeah, things are going to start moving really quickly after that. And if there is not a recalibration during Sagittarius season, there might be another tower. Like if you're not actively, like, I think that there's a stubbornness within the collective because of the fear that comes up. So what I talked about earlier with the little pouches of flour that represent fear and doubt. There's something really messy, right, about imagining an arrow hitting one of those pouches and the flour exploding. Something messy about that. We don't like for fear and doubt to be like blown open, but when you explore it, that's shining the light on it, and then it can no longer have that dense, unbroken concentration. That concentrated fear is what is the unknown. And once you allow it, like, see that as a game. I'm identifying that I have fear or resistance to moving through this time of serious changes. I'm allowing myself to not have all the answers. I know that regardless of appearances, everybody's in the same boat as me, because the collective is changing rapidly. People who are trying to find their power and their sense of self by having everything figured out, that's just their method and their way right now, but it doesn't make them any less, informed or plugged into what's happening than we're just handling this in a different way. So there's something about not being afraid to not have all the answers, not being afraid to treat the fear and doubt pockets like it's like our sensors go off and we're like, but I don't want to have to it feels like it means something more than it does in most cases. In most cases, we fear the extent of the projection that we have kept alive. We fear the little house of cards and all the little mirrors in it because we don't know the extent of it and how much it will take to collapse. But that's an illusion as well. It's very easy. It's weighted the same. In fact, it's weaker energy than anything that's fueled by, truth and connection and love. What's under this one? I'm like, yeah. And once you collapse that, you'll have this is a reclamation energy of what I kind of talked about with this Ace of Cups with the Sun. And then this is the energy of like continuing to stay light and to stay engaged and to stay ready to see. This is another part of the energy right now that might start to change a little bit during Capricorn season, but it's like every time you come back to yourself and the way that you're feeling that very day, that very moment, whatever it is, this little crossroads will open up and your situation, however stagnant it feels, will go, now what? And you'll be able to choose again and again and again. You'll be able to take one step after the other, and there's no such thing as stuckness for you anymore. That's a pocket of flour. If you feel stuck, you have to burst that open and understand that on the other side of that, the flour making a little bit of a haze after it explodes, there's gonna be an opening. So with that, I hope that everybody's doing well. I did not mean to do this, so I think that's a good thing. I think that means that this message needed to be heard today. I'm gonna go edit the videos that I took when I was walking in the woods yesterday and see if there's any messages of value. And if there are, I'm just gonna tack it on to the end of this video so that it's just one big video. But know that that is from yesterday. Yesterday was the 23rd of November, 11:23. Could be a synchronicity or an important number for you right now, as well as sequence of fives, like 2, 3 that reduced down to 5, or 5, 5, 5, or 11, or different little factions that reduce down to 11, like 4 and 7, or 2 and 9. This is a very intuitive day for me. I'm about to have an awesome day. I can't even tell you how awesome this day is going to be. Am I going to go anywhere or do anything or see anybody? No, I'm going to have an awesome day right here by myself doing the things that I love to do. And I'm going to do a quick like threading removal little energy thing right here for the solar plexus, because I talked about this in the woods yesterday, but there's something kind of like I noticed with we're kind of all in the journey right now in this very quantum loopy way. Are we at the beginning of a journey? Are we at the end of a journey? Are we right in the middle with those fives? That's something that's happening in our bodies too, with making sure that we continue to align with the fact that we're never here nor there. It's a cycle. It's a cyclical feeling. It's a cyclical wholeness that we embody. You're not a static being. You are in motion all the time. It's a beautiful thing. If we have issues that we want to regenerate within our bodies, you can imagine those cells being replaced with healthy ones. You can call in that energy. You can recrystallize your body. So there's something very active and very vulnerable about the energies in the solar plexus right now. And I've been seeing a lot of stuff that aligns with that. So here's just a little solar plexus is about our sense of self and our ability to command our sense of self for the highest good without compromising the way that we feel about ourselves, knowing that we're worthy, knowing that we're good enough. A lot of the times our lives and the way that we're positioned against others feels like we're all separate. We are not. We're of the same energetic body. And that means that the same sense of self and deservingness, an inherent goodness that lives within all people equally. And so you're never being threatened by anybody else's ability to inhabit that sovereign energy. All it's doing is asking you to call upon your own, what you witness in that energy, either being healthfully expressed or being compromised, is a mirror of your potential to access or deny that energy healthfully within yourself. And there's a lot of lack of accountability and lack of understanding in the collective around what it means to be there. It's like a quantum pancake again. There's a lot of, it can go either way. And I think that there's a lot of what it feels like right now is that a lot of people are either imploding or exploding as far as self-confidence of what it means to just be alive at this time. And like, can I affect change? How really powerful are the, impacts of my actions, and feeling either empowered or helpless, there's a lot of stuff being churned out, and a lot of it has to do with the way that we relate to certain things that have happened in our pasts. So they're being, you know, if you're having, like I talked about in one of my most recent videos, you might be having very strange deja vus that have nothing to do with what you're going through right now. That's energy clearing out to be integrated. Let it happen. You might be having these circle backs. Like I see somebody, it's a shepherd's hook. Like they use them to like get the sheeps. So there might be things from your past or different times when you got all marred up emotionally, like some issues that happened or you weren't treated fairly or something that happened in your life. They might be sheep hooking you back into that emotional space, even though what you're dealing with in your life today is a different situation. Emotionally, it's hooking back into something else that's also for integration. So just things to be aware of. And I'm sending good vibes out there. I won't go if I don't go abruptly. So that's how it's got to be. Bye. I'm having a little message come through about the idea that this actually ties back to a lesson around collapsing projections of the mind that I was given by my spirit guides in 2021 through a very deep and extensive boot camp around recognizing when something is a fear projection and collapsing it with a lack of belief or attention, like a training school with these different presentations of real examples of things from my life that were deviations from what was actually happening, but with a negative slant, like all of these theoreticals. And I had to sort of just like be in that central point, Alice in Wonderland with all the doors, and be like, none of it, you know, and then be the creator again. And it was this loop. But I'm thinking about how we all very naturally, like the way that we exist much of the time, if we're in the mind and relying on the mind, is letting doors open up like that, but at the quantum level, so we don't even realize that that's what's happening. But it sort of is that our brains are really only ever capable of sifting through everything we're being presented with and then having impulses that drive us forward. But the process is like, you know, what relationship to that reality are you choosing? Because you do have a choice to choose the way that you navigate through the doors that open up in every single moment. When we follow certain impulses that are a projection, like if we're operating under assumptions that are based off of illusions or like houses of cards, then they will be able to be seen through eventually by yourself. And that's the purpose of you having built them, for your own growth and learning, to have this experience that would ultimately challenge you. It would exist to challenge you to deconstruct it. And then there's something, I mean, all of these different things that people say about healing, but you are like a patch on a quilt, right? We all have different levels of experience with different challenges in life. Like everybody is different and unique in what they're going through, always, at all times, like far more than I think we even recognize. Because of that, we we can see our struggles as like sort of just as meant to be as the beauty in our differences. And I mean, like our successful differences that we like to celebrate more naturally. It's like we're avoiding trusting our own inner voice because we've been so used to subscribing to the world outside of us during Pluto and Capricorn. But the age of Aquarius is about the innovator and drawing that information out from inside of yourself, because that's where your life will turn to gold if that's where you go for your information. And if we all do that, it's a very beautiful thing, because we're all accessing the same thing, which is the uninterrupted pure connection that we all have within us to be that portal to the infinite. It's our own consciousness and seeing it for what it is and what it's capable of. But it's scary to embrace that because there's no model outside of yourself for what that version of your fully expressed self looks like, because you are it. And so you secretly think you know what it is, but there are certain things that you have to overcome in order to believe that it's possible, so that you can be, it's very Patronus and Harry Pottery, so that you can show up and be the one who enacts it for yourself. And I've always had that weird feeling, like I'm looking around growing up, like no one is doing what it is that I think should be done, and I want to go do those things and all of that. And so it's like a, you know, a recognition that if we don't do that, if you're not doing that, you're only doing one other thing, which is taking sticks from other people's teepees, and I mean, like, leaves out of people's books. Inspiration is good, blah blah blah, but like to not have the original connection to your own heart soul's calling. It's a different song. We're all snowflakes, vibratory snowflakes. Thinking of cymatics, our heart soul frequency could be expressed visually, it could be expressed in sound. It's that we're all just the vibrational expression of a different bandwidth of frequency. And so keying into that is to allow for your energy to be healthy and restored and fully accessed and flowing, and embodied, and doing all of the things that you need to do in order to honor that connection, even if they deviate from how other people are spending their time and stuff. But when we're so influenced by our phones and what we're inundated with in the algorithm, and we know about the algorithm, but we also are unaware at a certain level, if we're all wrapped up in being affected by it, what it's actually doing to the way we see things, until we don't see things that way anymore. So I think I need to go on my dog walk. He's like, what are you still doing in this car? There's a lot of solar plexus healing going on today in the collective energy, and I hit this beautiful point in the road when I was driving earlier where the tree was yellow, it was all glowing, there was yellow stripe on the pavement, yellow pedestrian sign, it was all the same shade of yellow, that exact bright glowing yellow. And it's not necessarily sunny today, but there's just a very bright white light that was coming through this sort of like hollow of the leaves and the color, and it hit me, it struck me, because I was immediately, right before I was about to drive into that spot, I was doing tone healing, and I had been moving up the chakras, starting with the root with some lower notes, and then moving it up my body as I changed what I was doing vocally, intuitively, just making noises, sort of a meditative thing to do while driving, and had just reached the solar plexus, and then got this illumined wash of yellow experience that really, I felt it in my body as I was humming, really, and sort of like whistling and singing and holding tone and letting it sort of warm and clear the energy centers. And I was thinking, because my mind will wander and I will channel when I'm doing those types of tone healing things, sort of thinking, processing through ideas around projections of our mind and projections that are the result of not fully, like, basically the easiest way to put it into words is following the intuition in the moment. But it's so much more complicated than that, because if you think about it in this like Alice in Wonderlandy type way, and you're there's all these doors in front of you, and all of them are theoretical things about what could happen. We're all prone to kind of erecting these different fear scenarios based on what we believe in and what's happened to us in the past. I was thinking about how we're not only, like, there's something to be celebrated in people's uniqueness, and we all know that. We're, at least I hope that everybody is at least accustomed to understanding what makes them special and different, even a little bit. I think most of us have no idea how profoundly special and unique we are, just because that's not, I don't know, it's just, I think that the way that we live culturally is obviously a lot more like controlled into categories than the natural expression that is possible if everyone were to go within to like really clear out their energetic flow and integrate the things that have been Skirid. Hello, Skirid. Fear projections of the mind are going to depend on, there are certain ones that are more cultural and broad and like overarching for groups of people, but then there are very specific ones, and it's about collapsing these probabilities like it's a video game and really seeing the way that your mind functions as something that you're taking back hijacked programmed control over, and understand that you're reiterating new pathways of code by re-scripting. You know, this is where quantum re-scripting comes in. There's a collective clearing. There was a deep like overwriting and some very strong like depraved masculine sexual energy from like last week into the beginning, or the week prior into sort of like last week, and that has been cleared out. There's this interesting relationship emerging in the energy that's like the energy coming in to replace what was being released and acknowledged, because we I think had like a little bit of a, seeing a tea bag like getting steeped, had a little bit of a, like a doused in something moment to burn something off. Speaking of that, as if we're processing something so that that we have a different relationship to it moving forward. I love that whole situation over there. So I had a fascinating conversation with AI, and I think 6 months ago I would have been like, don't do that, it's not a good idea, you don't want it to learn from you, it's watching you. But like that, I mean, that ship has sailed. I really do feel that way. I do feel like we're I believe in the extent of privacy, but not at all. I mean, you know, I think most people understand that like we have no idea what is monitored, and I've accepted that. That sort of ties into what I was sharing the other day with like the surveillance fear that came from my star CDT connection. They sort of bled together, so that in the middle of my life so far, like teens into early 20s, I was really scared and paranoid of both. Like that was the most confusing time, because the wires would get crossed around support surveillance, like angelic protection, star family protection, and the fear of being watched and witnessed and monitored, or like harvested, data harvest, you know, all these different things, and controlled and watched. And I'm seeing it as a tool that's very functional for me right now. And I think it's important that we have examples of people that are modeling the positive applications of it for humanity, because we're presented with so many negative, you know, person died, autonomous car, all these different things that are reported because they're worth reporting, but it sort of renders the people who are, I mean, we're just kind of existing and these things are getting rolled out. We don't really have a choice. So you're simultaneously hearing about these accidents and these issues, and these things are just saturating the market all around you, and you're starting to see them and whatever. And it's important to remember that it sits in neutrality. It's a big responsibility for humanity, and it sits in neutrality, and there's already people who are abusing it, but that's where it kind of links up with the understanding that it's been abused, and that's why a lot of things are the way that they are in inequality, and that's going to be acknowledged so that people who have been abusing their power, I mean, there is no enemy for getting real zoomed out about it, because they're in, you know, the same arm of God as far as universal expression of matter goes. We are experiencing all of this, corralling these particles into the light. It is, on our level, karmically a journey and a choice that energy is taking, and it involves punishment, because that energy and the charge of the neutrality, or the positivity and the negativity of it, the darkness of it, the low vibration of it or the high vibration of it, that will swing out in balance. And we are transmuting out as a collective the indiscretions of the shadow of humanity energetically. And it feels, it's trippy, and it feels like during that part last week, the middle of last week, I felt like sort of wading through a cement pool all the way, all of my legs, all the way up to like right under my belly button, and just like having to push through all of it. Very dense energy to sift through, and we have to command back the ability to connect and bring the light in. Even like I said this right before I left my house coming out here to take this walk, I said, I'm creating the biggest vortex. It is safe to say things like this to yourself and just get out of anybody's way and focus on the sensations of your own energy and what it means to be in it and feel it, and what it moves you to do, and what it feels like to follow its little orb, your little, what is it called? An anglerfish? Follow its little glowing orb into the dark forest of the unknown, because that little light will never go out. That's what This is kind of what I was getting at earlier with the fear projections thing. A lot of people feel like it's fearful to like surrender and go against the grain because, not having a model outside of ourselves to be ourselves is on purpose. You're supposed to be exactly as you are. And there are a lot of people that will love you for being exactly as you are, even if they're different from you. And so we need to begin to model that in a lot of different ways as well. Man, this river's high today. Damn it. I'm wearing sneaks. I'm not even wearing boots. Usually I just hop over that, but that thing's flooded. So I was talking about this the other day with my mother. We were talking about performative coolness and how I was like, I'm just kind of sick of feeling like if I am embracing a certain level of, like, I'm goofy as hell. I'm so goofy. I'm goofy. I like to be in a way that doesn't really abide by that. People, like, I think of people that I know very well how to interact with. It's not that I'm not capable of embodying these different, like, cellophane layers of the social, like, inlay and, like, this different, it's not my natural free mode of being. And if I deviate around certain people who have known me a certain way, and I'm trying to embody different energies and allow myself to change, the reaction that I get is sort of like, okay. So it's such a shutting down type of dynamic, because it's like, all right, I get that you're not entertained by me or on the same, it's not your way, but I do. It's strange, because I'm like, well, I do this kind of courtesy holding space for this other mode of being that you kind of prefer, and that's where you do think things are funny and all of that, but I cannot get the same level of reciprocity. And then that's when you realize it's energetic babysitting. You're not required to hold space for things that don't resonate with you, and the spaces that you're allowed to be your whole free self. But we get engaged in these types of dynamics where you realize that you have been, and then it's a choice. You can stay there and wish for it to evolve, but it does require compromising. And sometimes those relationships are required, that you know that you're kind of like operating at a level of space that suits the other person's consciousness, and you're just kind of there as they expand, and like change and maybe evolve away from certain kinds of like humor that you don't find funny anymore or whatever. Like, people can grow in tandem when they're on different spiritual timelines and frequencies and not lose touch or be apart, but at a certain level it can be challenging, and you do kind of fall out of alignment with people. Doing good, Mutt. Wow, he's amazing. He like runs off the trail and then he gets back on it. An icon. It's a lesson to us all. Muttley lost his vision, and now the trail lives within his heart. Snout. You cannot lose the anglerfish. It's attached to you. So the idea is that we're fearful. We're fearful sometimes of doing that very unique imprint that would put us in a completely different category. But what we don't realize is that if we're not there, then it's just as fearful to walk whatever path you're treading, because there will be projections. There's got to be something. If it's not that source, pure, core, integrated, healthy version of you, if there's some like angle that is wedged in there preventing you from embodying your whole self, which we all, it sounds like, if there is, like, of course there is, we're all imperfect on this journey moving towards that sense of wholeness and integration. So don't get me wrong there. I'm not like, sometimes I sound like a very like harsh coach type thing, but it's because this is how I talk to myself in a lot of cases. If you're not in that space of being okay, being like out on your own and existing, then you're only abiding by what can be considered fleeting overlays outside of true authenticity, because trends are the death of like originality. It's all recycled. Isn't that interesting? Even like content creators now all create off of templates because of what is already popular and circulated. So in this way, we kind of adopt like this hive mind thing where it is an honest reflection of what's going on with humanity and who we are, but also it's infiltrated and seeded with different types of things that affect the way that we then propagate its tendencies and what it's showing us.